A $400 fish finder can paint the bottom as cleanly as a $3,000 one. And the reason why is number 7 on this list, because the part that actually reads the water is the same on both. Not a slogan, a sensor that ships off one factory floor in New Hampshire. So this is a countdown of what your $3,000 actually buys, whether it wears a Garmin badge or a Lowrance one, and how little of that money is ever a better look at the fish. There are 7 things on the receipt for that flagship unit. Most of them never touch the water column at all. One corporation structure ties 3 of them together, brands you'd swear were bitter rivals, like Lowrance, Simrad, and Humminbird. And I'll connect those dots for you as we go down the list. By the end, you'll know the 7 things the price tag is really charging for. You'll know the one thing it genuinely buys that a cheap rig can't. And you'll have the $400 setup that punches straight up at it. Number 7 is the screen. It's the first thing you notice on a flagship, and it's real. A bigger, brighter, higher resolution display is easier to read in direct sun. It splits 4 ways without straining. It's kinder on tired eyes at the end of a long day. I won't pretend that's nothing. But a screen is a window, not an eye. It shows you the returns. It does not gather them. Think of it like a television. A sharper television does not put a better camera on the news crew. It just shows you their footage more clearly. The sonar picture is built before it ever reaches the glass. The transducer builds it, the processor cleans it, and only then does the screen draw it. So when a salesman walks you to the big display and the water looks gorgeous, you're admiring the photographer's print. You are not admiring a better photograph. A fancy panel can make a mediocre return look pretty, but it cannot make it one bit more accurate. You are buying a better window onto the same view. That's number 7, and we've barely started. Number 6 is the mapping. Open the box on a premium unit and it's loaded with cartography, the kind of preloaded charts that cost real money on their own. Names you'll recognize like Navionics Plus, CMap, and LakeMaster, with lake contours and coastal detail and depth shading down to the foot. It is genuinely useful, and I run good mapping myself. But a map and a sonar return are 2 different animals. The map tells you where the ledge probably sits. The sonar tells you what's actually on it right now, this morning, in this water. But you can buy a chart card for a budget head unit. It loads most of that same detail for the price of a tank of fuel. The flagship didn't read the water better. It just arrived with a nicer atlas in the glove box. That's a markup on paper. It is not a markup on what shows up beneath the hull, and those are not the same thing. Number 5 is the networking, and this one is where the price really starts to climb. A high-end helm talks to everything: radar, autopilot, engine data, cameras, digital switching, multiple displays wired together over NMEA 2000 and Ethernet. It's the whole bridge of a serious offshore boat. It's a command center, and if you run a 40-foot sport fisher, you may want every wire of it. But ask the honest question. Does the autopilot improve the picture of the bait ball under your transom? It does not. Does engine data make a fish arch sharper? It does not. Networking buys you a bigger boat's nervous system. It does not buy you sharper eyes. For the guy in a bass boat or a center console, most of those ports stay capped off for the entire life of the unit. You paid for the wiring harness of a yacht and you're fishing a farm pond. Your call, but at least know what you bought and why it cost that much. Number 4 is the processing headroom, and here's where I owe you a piece of foreshadowing. Flagship units carry more processing muscle and more transducer ports, so they can run several sensors at once without choking. That's genuine capability. It's also what lets them run the one feature a cheap rig honestly cannot touch. And I'm going to be straight with you about that thing in a few minutes. Because pretending otherwise is exactly how you get caught lying to a crowd that fact-checks every frame. But raw processing power by itself is not a clearer return. It's the ability to do more things at the same time. A $400 unit running one good transducer is not starved for brains on a normal sonar picture. It has every bit of compute it needs for the job in front of it. So this is headroom you mostly won't use, sold to you as power you can't live without. That's number 4, and I told you a corporate thread was coming. It's coming right now. Here's where the dots connect. You walk into the shop believing you're choosing between rival brands. You are mostly not. Lowrance, Simrad, and B&G all sit under Navico, and Brunswick Corporation completed its purchase of Navico back in October of 2021. The price was about $1.05 billion. That's not a rumor or a forum theory, that's a closed acquisition sitting in Brunswick's own filings. Humminbird and Minn Kota both live under Johnson Outdoors, the same parent company. Garmin stands on its own, but even Garmin doesn't build every part it sells, and that fact matters in about 90 seconds. So 2 or 3 of the badges you think are fighting for your money all answer to the same boardroom. Sit with that for a second. The shelf looks like a contest. Upstairs, it's one portfolio splitting your wallet. Number 3 is that badge itself. Once you understand who owns whom, the logo stops being a promise and starts being a price multiplier. You are paying a premium for the name stamped on the bezel, and a fat chunk of that name's value is marketing, distribution, and dealer margin. None of those things are Sonar. I'm not saying the brands are worthless. Some earn real loyalty with good service and good software, and I'll credit that. But the badge carries the fattest markup on the bill, and it has the least to do with what's actually under the water. That's a tax on recognition. It is not a tax on performance. And I know I just spent 4 items dragging a price tag. So let me be fair for a second before I keep going. Number 2 is the Helm Install Premium, and this is the quiet one nobody warns you about. When a dealer rigs that flagship into the dash, you pay a flat rigged price. It bundles labor, brackets, cabling, and shop time on top of the unit itself. Flush mounted, wired, networked, calibrated, and billed. That's a legitimate cost for legitimate work, and a good rigger earns it. But it's a cost stacked onto the badge, stacked onto the networking, stacked onto the screen. By the time it leaves the lot, the $3,000 number on the box has quietly become a much bigger number on the invoice. And almost none of that difference improved the return under your boat. You didn't buy better water reading. You bought a more expensive way to mount the very same idea. And number 1 is the part I promised you in the first 10 seconds. The transducer. The thing that actually reads the water. Remember that factory in New Hampshire? Airmar Technology Corporation was founded in 1982 in Milford, New Hampshire. It's the dominant maker of marine transducers on Earth, and it builds them for the brands you know. Garmin, Lowrance, Simrad, Raymarine, Furuno, Humminbird, Airmar's own people put it best on a factory tour. They said they don't build marine electronics, they build high-end speakers. And here's the verifiable piece, not the rumor. Garmin sells through-hull transducers on its own website, co-branded right there as the Garmin Airmar B265. Same Airmar, it's printed on the box. So on a huge number of boats, the sensor doing the actual listening is the same Airmar-built family. It doesn't care whether it's bolted behind a cheap screen or an expensive one. Now I'll be precise, because precision is the whole point on this channel. Not every transducer is an Airmar. The imaging and live sonar sensors tend to be brand proprietary, built in-house and locked to that brand. But the workhorse traditional and chirp transducers, the ones reading your bottom and your bait, very often trace back to that one factory. That's number 1. That's the whole game in a single sentence. Now I have to keep a promise, because this audience does not forgive a convenient lie. There is one thing your $3,000 genuinely buys that a $400 rig cannot match. But it is not the screen. And it is not the badge. It's forward-facing live sonar. The real-time, video-like view of fish and your own lure moving in front of the boat. Garmin calls it live scope. Lowrance calls it active target. Humminbird calls it mega live. It needs its own proprietary transducer and, on most rigs, its own separate module. And it is not cheap. The Live Scope Plus system alone lists at about $1,800, and even the transducer-only kit runs around $1,300. That's more than the entire budget setup I'm about to hand you. So if your whole world is watching one bass react to your jig in open water, the expensive rig wins that fight. And I won't insult you by pretending it doesn't. But notice something. The tournament world is busy banning and limiting that exact technology. The National Pro Fishing League banned forward-facing sonar outright for 2025. BASS is allowing it in only 5 of its 9 elite events for 2026. The other 4 block it entirely. So the very edge you're being sold as essential is the edge the pros are busy fencing off. Think about what that tells you. So for reading water, the bottom, the structure, the bait, the arches, the thermocline, the cheap rig catches all the way up. And here is exactly how you make it do that. The point was never to scare you off good gear. It was to stop you from paying for a logo when what you wanted was a picture. So now we flip from what robs you to what actually works. And there are 4 levers that decide what you really see. And not one of them cares what the box cost. The first lever is the transducer you choose, because you proved it yourself 2 minutes ago. It does the reading. So the smartest dollar you can spend is on the right sensor, never the bigger display. You match frequency to your water. A 50 kHz signal goes deep and wide with less detail, good for offshore. 200 kHz stays shallow and sharp. Down imaging at 455 and 800 kHz draws structure like a black and white photograph. Cone angle matters too. A wide cone, say 40 to 60 degrees, covers more water but blurs the detail. A narrow cone digs deeper and sharper over a smaller patch. You also match the mount to your boat. A transom mount is cheap and easy and right for most trailered rigs. A through hull holds the bottom better at speed, but needs a hole and a pro. A trolling motor mount is how most bow fishermen run their imaging. And on a solid fiberglass hull, you can even shoot straight through with no hole at all. But a cord or foam-filled hull will kill that signal stone dead. Airmar even sells a mix-and-match system. It's one transducer body with a brand-specific adapter cable. So a quality sensor can ride on a modest head unit you already own. One honest caveat. A 1 kilowatt transducer bolted to a 600 watt head unit still transmits at 600 watts. So you do not unlock the full rated output. But it still listens better than the bundled sensor, and a better ear improves the return either way. So the transducer is lever 1, and it's the one almost everybody skips. And that whole cross-compatibility question is its own rabbit hole. Which unit takes which transducer, what a used rig is really worth, that's where my marine electronics breakdown lives. The second lever is the install, and this is the single biggest free upgrade in this entire video. It costs you nothing but care and an afternoon. A transducer has to run in clean, undisturbed water to read it all. Mount it in the aeration boiling off your hull or the wash off your prop, and you've ruined it. The bubbles scatter the sound and shred the picture the second you come off idle. So you mount it parallel to the waterline. Keep it no more than about 1/8 of an inch below the hull, clear of strakes, rivets, and prop wash. Mount it on the side where the prop blades sweep downward, usually starboard on a standard rotation. And keep the cable away from your power wiring so you don't inject noise. And here's the part that stops you cold. A perfectly installed $400 transducer will outread a $3,000 unit whose sensor is drowning in bubbles. The expensive box cannot fix dirty water. The cheap box in clean water just wins, every single time. That's not an opinion of mine. That's physics doing your shopping for you. The third lever is the settings, and this is where most anglers quietly throw away the gear they already paid for. They leave everything on auto, and then wonder why the old-timer at the marina sees more on a cheaper screen. So, you take the wheel. Set your depth range manually to roughly twice the actual depth. Then bring your gain up until a faint second bottom echo just appears. Then ease it back a hair. That's the old captain's trick for tuning sensitivity, and it works on a budget unit exactly the way it works on a flagship. Then turn off fish identification. Those cartoon fish icons are just the unit guessing for you and dressing the guess up as a fact. The raw arches are the truth, and once you learn to read them, you never look back. Match your frequency to your depth. Slow your chart speed to match your boat speed, and keep noise rejection low in clean water so you don't filter out the real targets. Pick a high contrast color palette while you're at it, so the arches jump off the screen instead of hiding in the mud. And learn to manage your surface clutter by hand, near the top of the column. Don't just blanket filter the whole picture and erase real fish along with the noise. Do that, and suddenly the cheap screen is showing you everything the water has. Honestly, it's the least glamorous lever and easily the most powerful. The auto button is a crutch, and the guy who throws it away out fishes the guy who paid triple and left it on. And the fourth lever is the actual setup, the $400 rig that punches up. As a clean anchor pick, look at something like the Garmin Striker Vivid 7 CV. It runs in the neighborhood of $449, but prices move constantly, so verify before you buy. It's a 7-inch color unit with real Chirp 2D sonar and Chirp clear view down imaging, and it ships with the GT20TM transom transducer right in the box. That sensor pushes traditional sonar down past 1,000 feet and draws the structure underneath you with genuine clarity. For a little more, the 7SV version adds side imaging if you want to sweep water fast. And if Garmin isn't your flavor, the Lowrance hook reveal line and the entry Humminbird Helix units live in the same budget band. They bring real chirp and real imaging too. But I'd double-check current pricing and availability since those lineups shift around. The honest caveat, and I mean fully honest. This little unit has no networking, no chart card slot on the base model, and no live sonar. And that is exactly the point. You stripped out everything from the first 7 items. The screen tacks, the paper map, the yacht wiring, the badge, the helm premium, but you kept the one part that reads the water. That's the whole trick. It was never hidden. It was just never profitable for anyone to print it on the box. And when someone in the comments tells you the cheap unit can't possibly compete, listen for the myths, because they always show up. They'll say more watts means more depth. Not really. Frequency sets your depth and detail, and power just helps the signal get down and back cleanly. They'll say more pixels means better fish detection. No, resolution helps your eyes, not the sensor. They'll say you need side imaging to even find fish. You don't. 2D chirp and down imaging have been finding fish for decades. Those myths are how a screen gets sold for the price of a used outboard. And if you want proof the fundamentals haven't changed, watch the old timers. There are guys still running a simple flasher unit older than your truck. They read the bottom and the bait better than a kid with a $5,000 touchscreen. The gear was overbuilt, the operator learned to read it, and it still works decades later. The picture was never about the price. It was always about the sensor and the hands on the dial. That's the part the showroom quietly hopes you forget. So here's the one line worth carrying off this video. You were never buying a clearer look at the fish. You were buying a screen, a map, a wiring harness, and a logo, with the actual eyes bolted on almost as an afterthought. And those eyes, the transducer, the install, the settings, are the cheapest part of the whole equation. But they're the only part that decides what ends up on your screen. The same badge game runs everywhere, by the way. The same engine under 2 different car hoods. The same real body under 5 different names. Once you spot the pattern on the water, you cannot unsee it on land. You do not need $3,000 to read the bottom. You need the right sensor, in clean water, tuned by a person who finally turned off auto. That's it. That's the secret nobody selling helm units wants printed anywhere near the box. Before the next one straight thing. Nobody pays me to point at a brand. No sponsors, no dealer money. If you want today, take in deeper. My Marine Electronics Survival Guide covers transducer cross-compatibility and what a used unit's worth. About $20, and you got today free either way. Scan the code or tap the link below. Next time, I'm naming the spinning reels that roll off one assembly line under 5 different badges. And I'll name the single brand that still builds its own from scratch. Same trick, different aisle, and the price gap is going to make you angry all over again. YouTube thinks you'll like that one, so click it. And if you made it all the way to the end here, subscribe. This whole channel is built on showing you the part they bolt on as an afterthought, then charge you a fortune to ignore.